When the grid fails and the shelves are empty, 90% of what people stockpile will be worthless. The difference between surviving and becoming a statistic isn't about how much you have, it's about knowing exactly what matters. So here's the question that reveals everything. If you had 60 seconds to grab one thing before disaster hits, what would it be? In this video, we're breaking down the 7 survival essentials that separate those who make it from those who don't. No fluff, no fantasy gear, just the raw truth about what keeps you alive when everything falls apart. By the end, you'll know exactly what to prioritize, how to use it, and why your current prep strategy might be dangerously wrong. Welcome to Food Decider, where we cut through the noise and give you the strategic knowledge you need to protect what matters most. If you're serious about real-world preparedness, hit that like button and subscribe, because what you learn here could save your life. Let's start with the most critical need your body has when disaster strikes: water. You can survive weeks without food, but only days without water. Most people don't realize how fast dehydration shuts you down. We're talking organ failure, impaired judgment, and ultimately death, all within 72 hours. And here's the thing most people get wrong. They assume the tap will always flow. That's a dangerous illusion built on layers of infrastructure: electricity, treatment plants, chemical deliveries, and maintenance crews. Remove just one piece, and clean water disappears overnight. So what do? You need 4 pillars of water security, and each one covers a different failure point. First, filtration. A portable, high-quality water filter is non-negotiable. Brands like Sawyer Mini, Katadyn, and Life Straw are proven in the field. They can process thousands of gallons and fit easily into any pack. But here's the critical part. Filtration alone isn't enough. You need the other 3 pillars. Second, storage. At home, large barrels, water bricks, and food-safe jugs buy you time. In mobile scenarios, collapsible canteens or bladders offer volume without taking up space. The rule is simple. Plan for at least 1 gallon per person per day. Double that if you're in a hot climate or have children. But stored water runs out. That's why you need the 3rd pillar: collection. Rainwater is your most renewable supply if you're ready to capture it. A tarp, a gutter-fed barrel, or even a garbage bag funnel can collect rain in a pinch. But every single drop you collect must be filtered and purified. Don't skip this step, ever. That brings us to the 4th pillar: purification. Boiling is the gold standard. If you can boil water, you're killing everything dangerous in it. But what happens when fire isn't an option? That's when purification tablets come in: iodine, chlorine, or even unscented bleach. But here's the problem. You need to know the dosages, and Google won't be there when the grid is down. Print them out, memorize them, put them in your kit right now. Now let's talk about the mistake almost everyone makes: relying on bottled water. Bottles are a stopgap, not a solution. They run dry, they take up space, and they can crack or expire. True resilience comes from 3 things: mobility, redundancy, and knowledge. You need the ability to purify and store water anywhere, under any condition. That's what separates people who make it from people who don't. Next, let's talk about fire. Fire is survival. When the grid fails, you lose heat, you lose the ability to cook, and you lose sterilization. Cold kills quickly, especially when you're wet. Hypothermia can set in even above freezing temperatures. But fire isn't just about warmth, it's about morale. It anchors you psychologically when everything around you is chaos. Here's how you make sure you can start a fire no matter what. First, ignition. A cheap lighter works fine until it gets wet or runs out of fuel. That's why redundancy is everything. Carry ferro rods, magnesium blocks, waterproof matches, and stormproof lighters. Stash them in multiple places: on your person, in your pack, and in your vehicle. Never rely on just one method. But ignition is only half the battle. You need fuel that actually catches. Smart preppers don't just carry a spark, they carry tinder. Cotton balls soaked in petroleum jelly, dryer lint in waterproof tins, alcohol gel, pine resin, or fatwood. These materials catch fast and burn long enough to get your main fire going. And if you're sheltering in place, a portable stove that runs on alcohol or twigs can keep your space warm enough to sleep. Combine that with thermal blankets, insulated tarps, or even a tent set up inside a room to trap warmth. You're creating layers of heat retention. But here's what most people overlook: skill. You can have all the gear in the world, but if you've never built a fire in adverse conditions, wet wood, low light, cold hands, you're going to struggle when it matters most. Muscle memory matters more than gear when you're exhausted and under pressure. So practice now before you need it. Now let's move to blades. Forget the Hollywood machetes and tactical fantasies. The blade that matters is the one you always have and know how to use. Blades are for utility: cutting rope, shaping wood, opening cans, prepping food, building shelter, and yes, defense if it comes to that. You need 3 types of blades, and each one serves a different purpose. First, your everyday carry folding pocket knife. This is the blade that's always with you. Look for a strong locking mechanism, easy one-handed opening, and stainless or high-carbon steel. Brands like Swiss Army, Spyderco, or CRKT are reliable. This is your urban workhorse. Second, a fixed-blade survival knife. 4 to 6 inches of full-tang steel, strong enough for batoning wood, skinning game, or prying when you need to. Brands like Morakniv or K-Bar are excellent choices. This is your wilderness tool. Third, a multi-tool. Think Leatherman, not a knockoff. Pliers, screwdrivers, saws, scissors. This is urban survival's best friend for repairs and improvisation. When you need to fix something or adapt on the fly, this is what you reach for. But here's the truth about blades. A dull blade is dangerous. It slips, it requires more force, and it increases the chance of injury. Carry a pocket stone or compact sharpener and learn how to use it. Practice safe cutting techniques. Always cut away from your body, even when you're cold and shivering. Practice one-handed use. Train with your blades before you need them, because when the moment comes, you won't have time to figure it out. Let's shift to something most people don't think about until it's too late: medical preparedness. When the system fails, ambulances stop running, hospitals overflow, and pharmacies are stripped bare. A minor injury can become life-threatening if you can't address it. Your medical kit must handle 3 critical functions: stopping blood loss, fighting infection, and managing pain. First, blood loss. A real tourniquet, something like a CAT or SOFTW, is essential. Not a cheap knockoff, but a real one. And here's the skill you need to practice right now: applying it one-handed, in the dark, under stress. Because if you're the one who's injured, you won't have help. You need to be able to save yourself. Second, infection. Antiseptics like betadine, alcohol, and hydrogen peroxide are cheap and vital. Stock real gauze rolls, serious medical tape that actually sticks, and nitrile gloves. Latex allergies can be deadly if you don't have an alternative, so nitrile is the safer choice. Clean and dress wounds properly, because a small cut can become sepsis if you ignore it. Third, pain management. Over-the-counter medications like ibuprofen, acetaminophen, and aspirin become critical in a crisis. They reduce swelling, manage fever, and buy you time for more serious treatment. Stock them now. But here's what ties it all together: sanitation. Hygiene tools, gloves, soap, alcohol gel, tweezers, trauma shears are as vital as your flashlight or your food. Masks, eye protection, and aprons help protect both the patient and the caregiver. In a collapse, sanitation is survival. And none of this gear matters if you don't know how to use it. Take a Stop the Bleed class, watch trauma videos, print guides for reference when the lights go out. Learn to recognize infection, splint fractures, and clean wounds properly. Gear is useless without skill. Now let's talk about something that becomes a threat the moment the grid goes down: darkness. When the lights go out, darkness hides dangers, erodes your senses, and breeds panic. The right light source keeps you functional and safe. Your primary light needs to be compact, rugged, and reliable. 800 lumens or more, waterproof, impact-resistant. Brands like Surefire, O-Light, and Phoenix are built for crisis. But here's the problem with most flashlights. They're useless when the power grid is gone and you can't charge them. That's why rechargeability is critical. USB-powered flashlights paired with portable solar panels or crank chargers are essential. Add a power bank and you've got weeks of light. But lumens aren't everything. Too much light draws attention. Your flashlight needs multiple modes: high output when you need to see everything, low output when you need to conserve battery, and red mode. Red light preserves your night vision and reduces your visibility to others. That's critical if you're trying to stay unnoticed. And here's a game changer: headlamps. Hands-free lighting changes everything when you're building shelter, cooking, administering first aid, or navigating. Look for adjustable brightness and rechargeable batteries. Once you use a headlamp in a crisis situation, you'll never go back to handheld only. But the gear is only half the equation. You need to practice. Navigate in total darkness. Learn to signal without blinding yourself. Move without giving away your position. Train with your gear before you need it, because when the moment comes, you won't have time to figure it out. Now we need to talk about the hard truth: protection. In a true collapse, someone is coming. They're hungry, they're desperate, and they're convinced you have more than they do. Law enforcement is gone and fear rules the streets. You have to make a choice: look like prey or become unapproachable. Let's start with legal weapons. Depending on your location, this could mean a firearm, a tactical baton, or even a crossbow. The type of weapon matters less than your ability to use it under pressure. Training is everything. If you own it but haven't trained with it, you're more dangerous to yourself than to any threat. But weapons aren't the only layer.
Deterrence tools can buy you precious seconds. Bear spray, not pepper spray, bear spray, is significantly stronger. Personal alarms, strobe flashlights, and visible cameras can make someone think twice. Your home setup matters too. Layered defense is smarter than confrontation. Solar-powered motion lights, physical obstructions, reinforced doors, and sturdy locks slow intruders down. Every second they waste is a second you gain to react. And here's something people underestimate: perception. How you carry yourself matters. Alert, calm, prepared people get second-guessed. Hang visible warning signs, even if they're bluffs. Certainty is scarier than force. If someone thinks you're ready, they'll move to an easier target. One more thing: community. A trusted neighbor or a second set of eyes is invaluable. You can't watch every angle alone. Community is defense. But with all of this comes responsibility. Know your legal rights. Understand the ethical weight of every decision you make. Avoid unnecessary escalation. In a true crisis, waiting for rescue isn't a strategy, it's surrender. But acting recklessly is just as dangerous. Finally, let's talk about the most important survival tool you have: your mind. You can have the best gear in the world, but if your mind collapses, none of it matters. Panic, fear, and confusion are the real enemies. Survival starts in your head. First, situational awareness. Read body language, street behavior, noise levels, animal movement. Survivors spot patterns, not headlines. They notice what changes, what repeats, and what disappears. Train yourself to observe. Second, stress inoculation. Don't just read about hardship, experience it. Take cold showers. Sleep outside with minimal gear. Go without your phone or electricity for a day. Fast for 24 hours. Controlled discomfort trains your brain to stay calm when discomfort becomes real. Third, emotional regulation. Fear, grief, anger, loneliness, these are all normal, but the best survivors are emotionally disciplined. They pause, they breathe, and they wait for logic before acting. Develop a mental mantra, something like pause, breathe, observe, decide. It grounds you when chaos is swirling around you. Fourth, purpose. Survival for survival's sake isn't enough. Your why, protecting loved ones, returning home, proving you won't quit, becomes your anchor. Write it down, repeat it, make it your armor. And finally, acceptance. Collapse changes the rules. The longer you deny reality, the longer you stay frozen. Adaptation is survival. When everything falls apart, ask yourself, what's my move? Then act. So here's your moment of truth. If you had seconds to choose just one of these 7 essentials, which would it be? Would it be the water filter that buys you days? The blade that never leaves your side? The flashlight that makes night less terrifying? Or the protection that makes you untouchable? Your answer reveals everything about your priorities, your scenario, and your survival strategy. Drop your choice in the comments and tell us why. Your logic might save someone else's life. And if you found this valuable, make sure you're subscribed, because next time we're exposing the 5 ways your bug-out bag can fail, and how to fix it before it's too late. Stay prepared, stay logical, and remember, survival is a conversation among those who refuse to quit.